Okay. All right. So you're welcome again to the materials management training in SAP. So the way we have set this up, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, can see
Okay.
the screen.
So the way we have set this up, it will take you, from an absolute beginner to being comfortable with the whole materials management processes in SAP. Okay. So I've laid out these objectives. For those of you that have never used SAP before, I'm going to be covering an introduction to SAP, what the software is all about, and even a bit about the interface so you can get comfortable with what you can see on your screen, right? And then, so here are the objectives. We will do an understanding of the core concepts and the structure of SAP Materials Management. We will identify and maintain key master data. In materials management, the key master data are, things like materials, vendors, and info records, and a number of other master data elements. And you will understand what master data is as we go along in the course as well. Okay. Um, you will understand the procurement process, from requisition to all the way to invoicing. You will understand what that's all about. You will understand how to do inventory management, goods movement, and physical inventory. So that's a little bit about how we make sure that we keep very good control of the materials that we have in our store. Where is that thing? Yeah, because I'm not in the presentation mode. All right. And then we will do a little bit about, how to configure the system. I think I should put it in presentation mode. Where is my pointer? This one. Okay. Yeah, good. And then, so how to configure material types, valuation, account determination, what's that what all that is about. And then how materials management integrates with some other SAP modules. You will also know what SAP modules are very soon. And then we are going to be doing a lot of hands-on practices. And the way I have, pretty much structured the course is we will start with the concept. You understand the concept, and then you do some hands-on exercises. So it's a very hands-on training because that's the only way you can really get to understand SAP is actually by doing this stuff by yourself. And then, of course, as I will give you some homework after each session. Okay. Now
Okay.
let's continue. So first module is, an overview of SAP, an introduction to SAP and the materials management overview. Okay. Now, first of all, this concept of ERP and enterprise resource planning tool, what is it, right? Um, it's a back in the days companies used to have processes, individual processes like these ones you can see on the screen right now that pretty much were working independently. So you had for example the finance people having maintaining all the finance data of the company, and people in the warehouse, for example, couldn't directly interact with people in finance and vice versa. So, say for example, a product is ordered, and right there from the ordering desk, you cannot see, for example, the inventory of the material. You had to go over to the warehouse people to ask them, for example, if maybe a particular gasket is in stock, and then you got the reply from them, and then you went back again, to the delivery, and if not in stock and that material needed to be produced, then it was a manual effort you had to do to, pretty much talk to the different departments in the company. Um, so that became a problem, because there's a lot of first of all, you have to go to multiple sources to find data, and you have to, uh, it was difficult to integrate anything, right? It was very hard. It was very time consuming, of course, and also very expensive. Companies didn't have a centralized system that had all of their data consolidated in one place. They call it, a single source of truth. They didn't have a single source of truth. They had multiple databases sitting down, in different parts of the company, and it was not, it was not centralized, right? So that's the idea of what an enterprise resource planning tool is it's a software that pretty much integrates business processes together, right? To give you one location where everything is centralized. So, for example, in this schematic that you see here, say, for example, in the sales process, a customer has contacted, the salespeople, right? And this that maybe he wants to buy, I don't know, some gaskets or whatever. And those people first will have to check with the inventory department. As you can see, the arrow going all the way to inventory, right? And if the inventory people have it, and they can actually see that directly from the ERP software, that they can directly, search for that particular material and see if the material is in stock. And if it's in stock, they will directly, supply it to the, provide it to the customer. And if not, then they can talk to the people in production planning to go ahead and make that material. And if the production people have made it, they take it to the inventory people to store it in the warehouse. And then those people will go ahead and so provide it to the customer, right? And if that material cannot be produced, or if some raw materials are needed to produce that material, then the production planning people can directly, contact the vendors, right? And vendor also is, a master data within the system, right? So the system is already built in such a way that vendors are maintained in the system as well, right? And then if the vendors have provided it, they will go ahead and, provide the raw materials to the production planning people. They will make it, take it back to inventory. Inventory will store the material and then obviously sell it to the customer, right? And in parallel, there are the shop floor people. These are the people actually so these are the people planning, and these are the people that are actually making the product, right? And those people obviously need manpower in order to make the product, and they will pretty much contact the human resources department, you know, who will now provide the manpower to the execution people, and they'll go ahead and execute and directly, store in the inventory. So you can see that everything is intertwined. And then because all at every point at every stage in the whole process, there is exchange of cost, there's exchange of finance. So say for example, the vendors have provided the materials to the company. They will have to then provide what is called an invoice, right? They will provide an invoice back to the finance people, who will do accounts payable and pay the vendor. So there is a process for invoicing, and there's a process for payment. And all of these processes can be fully done right there in one system without necessarily leaving SAP. All of these activities can actually be done. Okay. So that's pretty much a summary, and that's what the enterprise resource planning tool is all about. Supports and integrates almost every functional area of the business process, such as procurement, sales, distribution, finance, accounting, human resources, manufacturing, and so on, right? There's even more than this that an enterprise resource planning tool can do. If you have questions along the way, feel free to interrupt me and go ahead and ask your questions, okay? Then So now we know what an enterprise resource planning tool, and there are many other ERPs out there, not just SAP, of course, but SAP is one of the most popular ERPs in the world, right? Just a second. Can you guys see this bar up here? Okay, now it's gone. Good. Can you guys just confirm you can still hear me?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
can hear you clearly.
very good.
Thank you.
All right. So SAP stands for Systems, Applications, and Products in Data Processing, right? It's actually the most popular enterprise resource planning tool out there. SAP started in 1972, and since then has grown to become really, really large. It's a software that comes from Germany. Um, as I already said, it integrates all these different business processes together, right? It's, as I said, also provides a single source of truth for business data. And of course, also provides real-time data because, as I said, in the previous slide, from right here, you can see just about everything that's going on in the company if you have the access to do so, right? So it provides that single source of truth, and the data is available to you in real time, and that's really powerful. So up here, because we're going to be talking about materials management, I kind of put this little schematic to show you how SAP Materials Management is actually integrated with some of all these other SAP modules, right? There is a module that is, responsible for, doing financial accounting, right? Controlling sales and distribution, quality management, warehouse management, plant maintenance. This is another area that I'm particularly involved in, right? Production planning, right? So you can see, of course, if you have to do just about anything, you need materials to do it. And if that material is not available, you need to produce it, right? And if that material is going to be sold, you need to interact with sales and distribution. And of course, because that material has cost, you have to collaborate with finance, and that finance has to be controlled. The cost has to be controlled. And of course, there is a quality management to be sure that the material has the right and expected quality. And then you have to store that material somewhere, which would be in your warehouse. And for plant maintenance, of course, if the materials are required to maintain the plant, then you interact with the plant maintenance people. So you see, materials management is kind of sitting in the heart of a lot of other business processes in SAP. Good. So here I just again put another schematic to show you some of the SAP modules, financial accounting, and typically you refer to them with these two letters. Okay, so FICO, In case of materials management, we call it MM. Okay, SAP MM. And by the way, as SAP professionals, we don't say the word SAP. We call it SAP, right? So that makes you sound professional. So SAP MM in this case is what we are studying in this course. And then there's also SD and logistics execution, production planning, quality management, plant maintenance, project systems, human resources, as the case may be. Okay. Any questions? All right. Good.
Yeah, good
Now,
so far.
all right, cool. Now we come to the concept of what master data and transactional data is, right? Now, it says here that it's the building blocks of SAP. So I will go back to that slide again. So here, for example, you see this customer is what we call a master data in SAP. So that's data that is the way I refer to it is they're like objects, they're like nouns, right? And the things that you can do from the master data are called transactions. So that's why here you have master data and transactional data. So transactional data, you can think about it in English terms as verbs. So actions. Why these ones are nouns, objects. So these are things, right? And these are actions. Think about it that way, right? So as I said, when you set up the structure within SAP, you set it up as master data in SAP. And master data typically contains information that is always used in the same way. So you hardly change master data in SAP. For example, you can see here I have vendors as a master data, I have equipment, I have materials. So let's say I gave an example of gasket earlier on. So say, for example, the company maintains three or four different types of gaskets and have decided to label them as gasket one, gasket two, gasket three, gasket four. So gasket one, for example, would be what is called a material master within SAP. And say the company has multiple vendors, right? So vendor one, vendor two, vendor three, vendor four, and these would all, typically have names. The company name, like I don't know, General Electric could be a vendor, for example. ABC company, right? These are all the objects or the nouns, if you will, and we call those things master data within SAP. And then what you can do with this objects up here are called transactional data. So if you're going to purchase this material, so material in this case is master data. If you are going to purchase a material, you are going to do a transaction, right? So if I give an example here, raising a notification, creating a requisition, paying an invoice. So you can see that these are actions, okay? These are verbs and these are objects, right? So master data equals objects, transactional data equals actions or activities or transactions as some people like to call it. Any questions at this point? No. Good. All right. So now we've pretty much covered the theoretical concept to get you familiar with what SAP is. Let's now look at the interface of SAP. Let's get our hands a little bit dirty with SAP. So basically, how do you access SAP? First, just you log in. There's a login screen, right, where you can enter just typically how you log into any system. Your Gmail, for example, you have a username and a password field. You go in and then you come to a screen that is called the easy access screen. This one right here. We're going to look at it pretty soon. And in that screen, you have a number of sections, right? We have the menu bar section, which is just a typical menu bar, just like every other application that you have used. We have a command field. I'm going to explain what that is to you. Then you have a title bar, you have an application toolbar, and then this part here is the menu. It's a tree menu, and you're going to have a look at it soon, right? And then there is a status bar. It's not showing here in the image, but I'll just go now into SAP and show you what I'm talking about. All right. Yes. Let's pull up an SAP screen. Just let me know if you guys can see my SAP screen.
Yes, we can see.
All right. So um, will log in. So it brings you this selection screen where you can select which system you want to log into. And then there's three things here. Client. So client, I would choose 800. Tell me, is it okay? You can see well? I
Yes,
will
I can
use,
see. I can see.
okay. I'll use that account. So just pretty much enter your username and password and press enter and you're in. So it brings you now to that screen that I was explaining just now. It's called the easy access screen. Okay. So this, as I mentioned, was the menu bar. up here, and it's just a traditional menu bar with some drop lists. And then you have the toolbar right here, as I have explained here, standard toolbar. I'll just take this the other way. And then you have the title bar, so you can see easy access. So this one changes depending on the screen that you are on at the moment. And then you have an application toolbar. You will see that when you go from one, so that's here, right? This toolbar here is the application toolbar, and these tools change according to the transaction that you are in. Okay, and then the menu, right? And then down here, so down here, depending on what you do, you will see some status information going on around here. And on this side, you have some other menus, for, just to tell you where you are, which system you're on, the username, password, your transactions you're doing, and so on. Okay. So this is the pretty much the interface, and underneath each of these items, you have several other things. And I'm sure you already can recognize some of the things we saw earlier on under logistics, right? You can see materials management, sales and distribution, logistics execution, plant maintenance. We saw some of these in this slide here, right? So FICO MM. So you can see them. For the finance one, they're inside accounting. You can see financial accounting, controlling right here, project systems here, investment management, even you have real estate management and so on, right? So SAP is a really powerful tool and you can use it to do a ton of things. And down here you can see human resources, right? Personnel management, time management, payroll, training, uh, organizational man everything, right? So everything you do as a human resources person, you can actually use the SAP system to manage. Everything you do as an accounting person, you can use the SAP, and everything you do in logistics, SAP can actually manage.
Mm.
Okay. So within each of these, then you start having some sub processes. So, for example, for materials management, you have purchasing, inventory management, some of the things we saw earlier on, physical inventory, valuation, material requirements, planning, right? So these are sub processes, and within those sub processes, then you start having even some other processes and activity and things you can use to manage both master and transactional data, right? If you take a look at plant maintenance, you can see management of technical object, maintenance, processing, preventive maintenance. And within each of these, you have sub processes as well for managing, for example, functional location and equipment, right? So in materials management, this is where we're going to be focused and we're going to do most of what you see here in this course. It'll take a lot of time because each one, is a whole process. But I'm pretty
Mm.
sure if we do it a couple of times, you will get the hang of it. Okay,
Okay.
good. All right. Favorites. All right. So there is this first, before I go into favorites, there's this thing we call, I already told you, transactions, right? Um, so let's say I want to create a material, right? The transaction to create a material is sitting in this folder, Material Master. If you go in there, then you can see material. You open that and you can see create special, create general, change, flag for deletion or display, right? And some other transactions here. Let's say I want to create, then I'll know that the transaction to do, and you can see that the icon has changed from a folder to this block right here. And that block means that you're about to perform an action, right? It's what we call a transaction, right? And this transaction is used to create a material, okay? And after some time, you will start to see a pattern. By the way, these thing here, MM01 is what we call a transaction code. Okay. So it's just nothing but something you do in SAP, right? But because SAP is such a big application and has so many transactions, they have codified the transactions in such a way that you don't necessarily need to open this tree menu to find the transaction. You just need to maybe remember the code, right? MM01. So if you know the code, you can, just drill down and, double click on it, and it'll take you to a screen from where you can start to create the material. Okay. And you can either just double click that to go in. And these are navigation buttons, by the way, that you can use to go back, exit, or close. Okay. So if I go back, it brings me back to the easy access menu again. And so this transaction code is MM01. So if I knew the transaction code, say for example, I was just back up here and I know that the transaction code I need to create a material is MM01, I can just come up here and just type MM01. And you see, it has taken me to exactly the same screen that I'm coming from, right? And yeah, that's the advantage of knowing some of those transaction codes is if you know them, then you can just type them up here and you go into the transaction. So MM01 is to create, MM02, MM02 is to change, as you can see, and MM03 is to display a material. Now, it's starting to be a lot of transaction codes, and that's only just for materials. SAP has thousands and thousands of transaction codes, and it's so difficult to remember them. It's not possible actually to remember all the transaction codes. There are transactions that you do frequently. Say, for example, we are doing materials management. So, as materials management people, there will be some transactions that we do all the time. And if we don't want to go into this tree view, to find the transaction all the time, we can come here, up here where you have this favorites folder, right click and insert that transaction here. So for example, in my case, I said MM01. Now you see that MM01 is now available up here in the favorites folder. So it's easy for you to just log into SAP and have MM01 already there for you in the morning when you come to work. And by the way, it stays even after, if I log out of the system, and by the way, that's the button to log out. You can also log out from here by going to system and log out, right? So if I click on that and I say yes, now I'm out of the system. I log on again. I put my client, my username, my password, and again, I have the MM01. So it stays here for my user account. Now, if somebody else has access to the same system and logs in, the person will not have the same favorite list as I have here. And let me just add some more favorites, MM02. Now you see I have MM02 there. I will add another one, MM03, right? And now it starts to be a little bit easier for me to find my transactions instead of having to, open logistics, then materials management. And by the way, and you also have to remember exactly where it is, right? And then material master and then material and then create. You see, that was like 6 clicks to find that. But if you saved it as a favorite, then you can just go ahead and double click it from up here. Some other things you can do with favorites, if you pull down the favorites menu item here, you can add, you can change, you can move, you can delete, you can even create a folder. So say, for example, as a materials person, I always, do material activity. So I can insert a folder and say, for example, this is my material master folder, right? And then I can move all of these transactions into that folder by just clicking and dragging into that folder. You see? And now I have them stacked under Material Master. Say I have another set of things I do with vendors. I can create another folder, you'll call it vendor master, okay? And then I can right click on that folder and insert a transaction. The transaction to create a vendor is XK01, right? And now I just have it right here, right? XK02, insert transaction, XK03. So you see how easy it can be to manage your transactions, right? You can also move these ones by just clicking and pushing it. So this button can be used to push it. This one can be used to change it. Okay, so if, for example, I don't like centrally here, I can just delete that and just keep it a little bit tidy. So it just says create vendor, change vendor, display vendor. Or you can also just totally change it to whatever you want. Okay. If you don't like to see the transaction codes, I like leaving them. But if you don't like to see the transaction codes, you can go into extra and go to settings. And then you can uncheck display technical names. Click OK. And now it just says create change display without the transaction codes, but I like to leave the transaction code. So it's just a matter of preference. And I go back there and I have the transaction codes again. Okay. So that's how you manage favorites. You can create folders, you can add your transactions, stack them into folders, you can move them, you can also delete them. So if I don't want display, for example, I can either click on it and remove it, or I can just click on it and press delete on my keyboard and it's gone. So if I want to delete everything, say everything in the vendor master, I can just click on that and press delete on my keyboard and it's gone. Okay, I'll just create it again. Vendor master. And then inside here, insert transaction, XK01, XK02, XK03. All right. And then just organize it again. Okay. So that's how you manage your favorites in SAP. Any questions? All right. Very good. Thank you. Saw your comment. All right. So that's what I was talking about here. Adding, changing, organizing, using folders, deleting, downloading. Now that's a good one. Downloading favorites. So you can actually download these favorites into a notepad document. So for example, if I wanted to, I have a pretty robust set of favorites and I want to share that with Obina, because me and Obina, we have pretty much the same roles in SAP. We have access to a lot of things in SAP and we do the same kind of work all the time. So it takes time, to create all of these favorites, especially if you have a lot of favorites. And you can actually download these favorites and send that text file to I can download the favorites and send the text file to Obina and ask him to upload it, and he will have exactly the same favorites as I have, right? So let me show you how to do that. So I'll just go here to favorites, click on download to PC. I go to my desktop, I call it favorites, save. And now it's saved. If I go to the desktop, just minimize this. You can see I have a favorites file here. I need to download it as a text document. So download, I'll just say favorites.txt, save. Okay. And now I have it here. And I can open it and see how SAP has kind of organized the data, right? So if I go back there and just delete it. So say Obina when I give Obina access to SAP, he doesn't have any favorites, and now he needs the same favorites as I have. He can go now to favorites, upload from PC,
Mm.
select the one that I have just, where is it? Favorites.txt, this one. And you see,
Mm.
just like that, you have your favorites back. Okay. So that's how you can download and upload favorites. I have a pretty robust. Let me just upload one that I've made before now. Upload from PC. I called it menu. This one, and you see, and just like that, I have a lot of favorites, and I've pretty much organized this into activities that I do frequently. So just like that, if you can, maintain a very good set of favorites by just knowing how to download and upload favorites and sharing them with others. Okay,
Okay.
good. All right, let's go to the next topic. I already explained what transaction codes are to you. So the transaction codes are just, these four-letter codes. I will do that. Yeah. So they're just these four-letter codes. And typically you will see a pattern that 01 is for creating, 02 is for changing, and 03 is for displaying. So if you remember, I said material was a master data, and there were some other transactional data, like for example, purchasing. Like when you create a purchase requisition, you are actually doing an action, right? And when you create a vendor, you are creating a master data, right? And all of these have, all of these things we call transaction codes, okay? And I just put a screenshot here for some of the most commonly used transaction codes with materials management. But you will quickly see a pattern here: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 51, 52, 53, 21, 22, 23, 1, 2, 3, right? So, and mostly it's one for creating, two for changing, and three for displaying, okay? Depending on the activity that you're trying to do, whether you're creating a master data or you're just doing any other transaction, okay? So typically 4 to 10 characters. The one I've shown you is 4 characters. This one is 5. This I think is 6, and it can even be longer than that, right? And each one does a corresponding function in SAP. Okay. And I've already told you how you can type that transaction code into the command box and press enter, and it will take you to where you want to be. So if I wanted to say under purchasing, if I wanted to create a purchase requisition, I can either just double click on this or type ME51N into the command uh, field and press enter, and it will take me to the screen for creating purchase requisition. Okay, good. And what else? Yeah, you add the frequently used ones to your favorites. So we talked about this already. Now we start to go into the organizational structure of materials management. But until now, any questions about T codes, about the screen, about favorites? Any questions at the moment? Okay, we'll take a break at 1 o'clock. At sorry, 5 o'clock for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back.
Okay.
All right. Organizational structure. Now, as I said before, SAP is made up of master data, okay? And this master data needs to be organized into a logical structure that makes sense, okay? For materials management, this is just, we start with client. I don't have it in my schematic, but client is, say the company, say, for example, General Electric is the client, right? And then General Electric would then have what we call companies. So they will say, for example, they have one branch in Denmark, one in Germany, one in Nigeria, and so on. So these would then have what we call company codes. So each company has a company code, okay? And this is actually a master data that is maintained in SAP. Okay. So the client has a company code, and the company code then has what we call plants. So say, for example, General Electric, they have a company in Denmark, which would have one company code, and therefore then have multiple plants in Denmark. So say, for example, they have one plant in Esbjerg and one plant in Copenhagen and so on. Those would then be called plants. Okay. So one company code can have multiple plants. And then there is this concept of purchase organization. So because we are dealing with materials, we have to buy materials within the plant. So say, for example, the plant in Denmark needs to, contact vendors, needs to negotiate prices with vendors, need to maintain vendor information. Those people that do all of those purchasing activities are called the purchase organization. Okay. And then uh, in each plant, you will have what we call storage locations, right? So the storage location would then be maybe the warehouse, for example, right? So say, for example, the plant that we have in Esbjerg would have a plant a warehouse in Esbjerg and maybe so maybe one warehouse in the main office and another warehouse in another yard within Esbjerg, okay? So these are locations where materials are stored within the plant. Okay. And the purchasing group are the people that are actually buying the material. So you can also call them the buyers. Okay. So say, for example, General Electric SBA would then have, so in addition to having a purchasing organization, which is responsible for interaction, which is responsible for maintenance of vendor information and, pricing and things like that, there would then be a group of people that are doing the actual buying. So these are the guys that are doing the day-to-day activities of buying from the vendors, right? Buying, generation of purchase order, issuing of purchase order, collecting of, invoices and so on. And these guys are working pretty much closely with the finance people, right? So I hope that makes sense. If you have any question, just ask me. I will start again from the top. Company, then the company has a company code, and in that company, you will have multiple plants. And for all the company, you will have a purchasing organization. And by the way, the purchasing organization can either be linked directly to the plant or can be linked directly to the company. So, say, for example, the company, General Electric Company in Esbjerg, say, for example, they have three plants. All plants can use the same purchasing organization if the purchasing organization is maintained at the company code level. But if each plant wants to manage their um, purchasing processes by themselves, then the purchasing organization would then be linked directly to the plant, which is why I have or here. So it's either connected to the company code or to the plant. And within each plant, you have storage locations, which is a place where materials are kept. And the people that do the day-to-day buying are called the
Mm.
purchasing group. Okay? Make sense?
Okay, sorry, what do you talk about these clients? The client, is it,
So
can you repeat
think
about
of the client
clients?
as GE, GE
Okay.
Worldwide, for example,
Oh,
GE Worldwide. And then the GE in Denmark will now be a company. So GE is
okay.
is the organization, and then within the organization there are several companies, and within several
Mm,
companies there are several plants, and within the plants there are several storage locations.
mm,
Okay, and this is data that is
okay.
maintained in SAP. So and we need this structure in order to start to do any processes for material. So if we have to create a material, for example, we must
mm,
specify which plant that material belongs to, which storage location is that material going to be saved, what is
mm,
which vendors are going to supply us that material. That's what the purchasing organization will manage. And then
mm.
when we do need materials from that vendor, we have to create POs, a purchase order, and that these people here in the purchasing group are the ones doing that business process. You can see here,
Okay.
unit responsible for everyday procurement activities within an organization. All right.
Mm.
You can stay muted, Obi. If you have any question, just open your mic and ask, okay?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm recording. All right. Master data. So material master. Um, Joe and Florence, does this whole thing here make sense to you? Any questions?
Yeah, it makes sense. Uh,
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Because you're going to need to understand that for a lot of the other things that we're going to do. Good. Now, material master. So let's talk now about materials. Um, So material in SAP is a core business information that remains constant. So this is a master data, right? I thought I already talked about master data. Anyway, so master data, and by the way, there are all these for material management. These are the main master data that you maintain. Material master, vendor master, purchase information records, source lists, quota arrangement, customer. Equipment is not really for materials management, but you get the idea. I said that the master data is the the nouns, pretty much the things, the objects, right? All right. And now, for Material Master, there are a number of things that you have to maintain for a Material Master, okay? As I said here, it contains all the information about a material. For example, what's the type of the material? Is it a raw material? Is it a finished product? Is it a spare part? What is it? What type of material is it? And how is it going to be purchased? So information about the purchasing of the material is maintained in what we call the material master. Um, how are we going to well, look at this schematic down here. So the information about the material, where will the material be? The plant information. How much does it cost? The accounting information. And which accounts actually are these materials linked to? How are we going to buy this material? What's the delivery date? How long does it take? Who are the vendors? Where are we going to keep this material? The storage location information. What about quality? Are we managing quality for the material? Material requirements planning. If this is a material that, for example, we need, if we're a car manufacturing company, for example, and we always need tires as a material that is supplied to our production facility, how many? How soon do we need them? How are we planning the material requirements? It's a big topic. It's called MRP, Material Requirement Planning Information. That data needs to be stored within the material master as well. And you're going to see that we're going to make a material very soon. What about sales and distribution information, cost information, and so on? There's a number of views for managing the material master, and you're going to see that very soon. Okay. So here I'm just talking a little bit about material types. I mentioned it already. It could be raw material, semi-finished product, or finished products, right? And I also said that the type of material depends on the views that you see. There are some materials that probably don't need to be procured. Maybe they're just materials that are produced within the factory, right? Those materials obviously may not necessarily need procurement, but the raw materials for those materials need procurement, okay? So the things that the information that is needed for a raw material may not necessarily be the same information that is needed for a semi-finished product, a spare part, a finished product, or whatever, right? So in SAP, we have what we call views. The views are the different data screens in SAP, and that actually changes depending on the material type that you have selected. You're going to see that soon. And then material groups is a way we classify the same materials with the same characteristics together. And I gave some examples here. So, for example, electrical items, right? But let's say electrical items are falling under spare parts material type. But then within that, there would then be a group under spare parts for only electrical items. Maybe there could also be instrument items and so on, mechanical items. But all of these are linked to maybe one material type that is called spare parts, for example, right? So it's a sub way of categorizing your materials. And it's also quite necessary when you're doing reporting and analysis and, also for, ensuring that you are doing purchasing by group, right? So you can, group a number of materials and engage their purchasing because they all have a common material group. Any questions? No. All right. So we're going to see this very soon. In the material master itself, you have all of these views, as I've said before. So the basic data view, there are two of them, basic data view 1 and 2, but this is just where we maintain basic data, right? The description of the material, the base unit of measure. So how are we going to measure? Is it in kilograms? Is it in count? So is it each, right? Is it in pieces? Is it in in meters, as the case may be? What's the weight of this material? What group does this material belong to? All of these are called basic data, okay? And the department is cross-functional. So everybody has access to this data. Everybody can use this data. And this data can be used across multiple plants. But then it starts to be a little bit different when we go into purchasing. In the purchasing view, we maintain what we call purchase group. And if you remember up here, we said that the purchase group are the group of buyers, right? The people that are buying the material. So this one starts to be a little bit more plant specific because, well, it depends. You may want to maintain the same group of buyer for all of the facility, or you want to maintain for one department, right? So who's gonna buy? What is the unit of order? When you buy it, are you bringing them in batches? Are you bringing them in, say, in crates, for example, right? And what are the tolerance limits? These are all characteristics for purchasing, and these are data that we maintain during purchasing, right? What's the delivery time? Things like that. And then I told you about a little bit about materials requirement planning, MRP. This is where we save things like the reorder point, the safety stock. Safety stock is what's the minimum. I talked a bit about a manufacturing company, a car company, for example, that needs tires. How many tires do we need to keep in stock all the time? That's a safety stock. Say we need all the time to have 20 pieces of these tires all the time. The system would have to be set up in such a way that when the stock goes down to 20 or maybe 19, then the system will automatically create what we call a purchase requisition for one to bring it back to the safety stock of 20. Okay. So that's material requirements planning. And then accounting, there are two accounting views within the material master. There we can do things like class valuation, price control, and so on. And this is managed by the finance people. How much does it cost, right? The accounting stuff. Which accounts do we need to um, post costs to when we talk about this material? What about storage information? Where are we going to keep this material, right? Storage locations, the levels of stock, how are we going to handle it, the handling unit. And these are all things that the people in the warehouse are managing. And by the way, some of these information, as I said, are plant specific, right? Some of them are also general, like basic data. So basic data is basic data. All plants in the company can use the basic data. But when you start to segregate, say, okay, I'll put it like this. Say, for example, I use the GE example that GE has a plant in Esbjerg and another plant in Copenhagen, right? And they both stock gaskets, right? But the price of the gasket in Esbjerg might be different from the price of the gasket in Copenhagen, right? So the purchasing people in Esbjerg have a price, say, for example, $100 that they have saved in SAP, but that price is only specific for the Esbjerg plant. It will not be applicable in the Copenhagen plant. So the people in Copenhagen plant would have to extend this material to Copenhagen plant, but with a different purchasing information. So the vendors will be different, the price will be different, but it's the same material. So the basic data up here will be the same, but the purchasing information will be different for the particular plant. Okay. And so on. And here we talk about, quality management. So what type of inspection and, quality control keys. And these are things that are managed by the quality department. Any questions, guys? This will start to make sense to you when you see this, all of this in the SAP screen.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
Yeah, please. What's the tolerance limit? I don't know what tolerance limit is about.
You will understand it when we go into purchasing. When we start to look into there are a number of fields, and you will see it when we get there. Okay. Good. All right. So as I said, the way I structure the course, I put all the theory, and then we start going into the data, and we start to do an exercise. Okay. It's already 5. Let's take a 10 minutes break, and then we'll come back and dive into the exercises. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right. So
Yeah.
we'll
Yes, good.
come back at 5:12.
Okay.
All right. See
Right.
you. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
you're welcome. All right. So first one is create a material. So the objective here is to create a new raw material called steel. Okay. Steel sheet. And in this case, as I told you already, the transaction code to create a material is MM01. So let's go ahead and run that in SAP. MM01, enter. It takes you to the create material screen. And as I said, you can also just either maybe maintain a favorite here, MM01, and just double click on that, or you can go to logistics, material management, material master, material, create general, and you have MM01 here. Okay. So it brings you to that create screen. Yeah. And well, my exercise says we should put this material number, but I'm not going to use this number. I'm just going to allow SAP to assign a number based on the range that we have configured in the back end of SAP. Maybe before the end of this course, we will do, and by the way, this is going to be a long course. I don't know how long it'll take, but let's just do it from time to time. So at some point, we will have to do some configuration where we will be assigning number ranges based on the material type here. So these are the different material types that we talked about earlier on in the slides. If I scroll up, yeah, here we just talked about raw material, semi-finished product, finished products, and you can see some of them here: semi-finished products, raw material, and so on, right? So our example is asking us to create what? Um, so it says that we should select mechanical engineering and raw material. Okay, so let's go there. So sector, mechanical engineering, and raw material. Good. And as I said, I'm not gonna put in any number here. This one is required if you're copying from another material, but for now we're just creating a brand new material, okay? And then I press enter. And now it brings you to that screen where you have the views. And if you remember, we talked a bit about views here. And I told you how you have um, basic data 1 and 2. I'll minimize it, and that's what we have here. I'll just deselect. You can select or deselect views. These are all the views for raw materials. And if you remember, I mentioned that depending on the material type, you probably have a different set of views. Let's see, let me just maybe change this to this returning package, returnable packaging. Looks like there is no number range maintained for that. Let's say spare parts. So spare parts here. They look similar, but they're not exactly the same. You can see this one is ending in accounting 2. And let me see for raw materials. I thought I saw more views. Yeah, this raw material has costing 1 and 2, right? So depending on, there are some views that have just 3 or 4 or 5 views that you can maintain, but that's just because of the type of material and how the views have been mapped to them. Okay, I'll go back to our exercise. It says, and so we're not going to do that. And I said here, SAP can assign this automatically. Yeah. And then we select basic data 1, purchasing and accounting 1. Okay. Let's go back to SAP. Basic data 1, purchasing, accounting 1. Okay. And then in SAP, this green button right here is used to continue. It's called continue, right? Or if you just press enter, it'll do the same thing. So basically what it means is that we're going to create a new material with these 3 views for now. Let's go. And then if you remember, it's asking us, remember I told you about plant, and I said that plant was a master data. And when you create a material, you have to assign it to a plant, right? So in this case, our plant is called 1000 work Hamburg. Now, this is according to the plant that has been created in the system. You can select another plant. If you click this button just by the side here, it's called the match code button. You click on it and you will see all the plants that have been maintained within the system, right? This is a test system, so you have so many plants in it. However, that's how so typically in your company, you will only find the plants that have been maintained. For example, I talked about Esbjerg and Copenhagen, then you'll just see only 2 lines here, right? Because that is what the company has maintained. Okay. So we continue again with this green checkbox, and then it brings you to the create material screen. And you can see in this case, we're trying to create a raw material. Okay. All right. Our example has asked us to maintain to call the material, what did they say? Steel sheet, right? Steel sheet. All right. I go back there. And here under the name, you can see that I told you SAP will assign a number automatically to the material. That's this number you have here. Steel sheet. Okay. So this, again, some of these fields in SAP, to know what they mean, you can just click into the field and press F1 on your keyboard, and SAP will give you a description of what that field is, right? In this case, this is the material description short text field. And it tells you that the text can contain up to 40 characters. Okay, that means if you go beyond 40, you cannot maintain that. And then it also gives you a use, why you need it, and some procedure. So this is really good information when you're trying to do stuff in SAP and you're probably not sure what it is. you can just click in the field. For example, base unit of measure. You can click in there, press F1, and you can see a unit of measure in which the stock of the materials are managed. The system converts all the quantities you enter in other units of measure. Okay, so it's good reading. As you get more and more familiar with SAP, some of these fields you'll know them, but there are still times you will meet a lot of fields that you don't know what they are. Press F1 and you will get a bit more information about that field. And then in our example, it says that the base unit is EA. EA means each, right? And you can also see if you press the match code button, as I said, you can also see all the other units that you can use for that particular field. In this case, it was EA, and EA should be somewhere here. It's right here, each, right? You can also have, I think there's pieces here, there's pair, there's pack, and so on, okay? These are units of measurements, each. And then by the way, you will see this kind of check mark here for the fields that are required. When you, for example, fill an online form on the internet, there are some fields that you must put data into. And the material group in this case is a required field. And you can also, in configuration, set some fields as required or optional, okay? In this case, we have to put a material group. And the example has asked us to maintain a material group 1000, but then let me see if I have 1000 in the system. I don't think I have 1000, but that's only just an example. Basically, you will double click on that. Steels. So steel sheets. There we go. So we have an exact material group. Okay. And one habit you will need to get used to when you work with SAP is to press enter, as you go along, right? I've just pressed enter and you see it has jumped me. By the way, there are all those other views are still here, by the way, okay? We just only created with basic data, purchasing, and what was the other one we chose? Accounting one, right? But the other views are still here anyway, okay? And you can jump from one view to another. So here again, you see that the purchasing group is a mandatory field, but let's see what the example is asking us to do. It asks us to select a valuation class of 3,000 and the price of 50 euros. So, but purchasing group is something and remember, who can tell me what purchasing group is?
The buyer.
The buyer, exactly. That's good, Obi. So the buyer, the purchasing group here, okay? And if you remember, I said in the purchasing view is where you maintain the purchasing group. And here we are in the purchasing view. So the view is just the tab, okay? So here is where we will talk about which group are going to be purchasing this material. And you can see all of these. These are, the description. You can see it's people's names, their phone number, and the information about the particular buyer. Let's choose this guy. Okay. Let me see our example again. Oops. Yeah, valuation class of 3,000. Anyway, as I said, get into the habit of pressing enter. Okay. So once you click enter, it will take you to the accounting, because these are the three views that we have selected, and valuation class is right here. But I don't know if raw materials. Perfect. So the valuation class for this one is raw material. And again, if you don't know what that means, you can press F1 and you can see that it's the default value for valuated stock of the material. And then you can see what the use is. Allows the stock value of the material of the same material type to be posted to a different GL account. So it's something that's linking with this GL account is what we call general ledger. It's used to, it's kind of it's an account where the costs are recorded. Okay. So what it means in this case is that all raw materials should go into that particular, or that this material is a raw material, and based on this valuation class, it will be posted into the corresponding general ledger account in finance. Okay. And then standard price of 50. So first, there's something here. It says that the price control is S, which is standard price, and that it's 50. So price control is right here, S already, by default, standard price. And we are saying that the standard price here is 50, okay? Press enter. And now it's asking you that it says that you have reached the last screen, and you can go ahead and save this material. And remember, we said selected only 3 screens. So let's go ahead and click yes. Remember in the introduction, I told you that there is usually a status bar down here, right? And you can see that it's telling us here that our material 1292 has now been created. And you can also just double click on that to make it a bit bigger. Sometimes you may have some more data in the screen. So just like that, congratulations, we have created our first material in SAP. Good. So that's exercise 1 done. Any questions at this point? The idea is, as I told you, MM01 to create. You select the industry and the material type. You select the views that you want to maintain the data for, and that will prompt you to enter a plant where you want to add this material to. And then you will see those views that you have selected, and you maintain the data in those views according to the requirement in this example, for example, or in this exercise, for example. All right, let's do the next one. The next exercise says that we should extend this material to another plant. So let's see how to do that. At the moment, there is a material report that we can use to see all materials. It's called MM60. Let's see. And by the way, you will start to get used to some of these what we call transaction codes as time goes. Okay, so don't worry. Where is the material? The material we just created is, let me see, 1292, right? Good. If I go to that material list, I will explain this report to you, but you can see something that for this material, there is one plant that it has been assigned to, and that's plant 1000, okay? And you can see the description that we gave it. You can see the type of material, the group, the unit of measurement, and the purchasing group. You can see the valuation class 3000 for raw materials. You can see the price control. In this case was S, which is for standard price. And then you can see that it costs 50 and the currency is euro. And you can also see the name of the person that has created it. I've used Victor as an account to log in. So this gives you pretty much a summary of the material detail based on your selection in this initial screen. At the moment, this material is on one plant, but this exercise is asking us to extend the material to another plant. In this case, to plant 2000, right? So extend existing material, select copy from existing and specify plant 2000. Maintain accounting view for 2000. Let's see how we do that. So we go here, we go back to to go back to your home screen, you can just use this X and you're back to the home screen, okay? The T code or the transaction code to extend is still MM01, okay? Which was the same transaction code we used to create it. But in this case, we will have to put the material number here so that SAP will know that we are we want to do something with this material. Okay, press enter, and then it brings up the views. And in our exercise, we have been told to maintain accounting view. Okay, so I will, to deselect, just press that. So accounting 1, and I can just maybe leave the basic data, press that. And now it's asking me which do I have valuation type? Oh, valuation type is not maintained. So you know what? I will just a second. I will remove I'll just leave only the basic data. Just uncheck basic data, go to organization. Oops. Let's use purchasing to extend it. That's because the valuation type is not maintained in this system. Okay. So if now what I need to do is to change this plant here to 2000, right? Now the reason is because I want to extend this material to another plant. Okay. Again, as I said, say we have a plant in Esbeg, and the plant in Esbeg knows this material and has, the price and all the information for Esbeg, but they want to have, you want to have the same material in Copenhagen, but with some different kind of information. Obviously, the storage location will be different because the plant is not the same, right? So you have one plant in Esbjerg, you have another plant in Copenhagen. The way to do it is using this organization, all levels, you then extend the plant, and you can also extend the storage location, and we'll see a little bit about that in later. All right. So now you can see here that it says that the material already exists and will be extended. Okay. What it means is that now this material will be available for use in the plant in Copenhagen, for example. Okay. And now you see it's asking us under purchasing to maintain a purchase group. But if you remember, we had already mentioned the purchase group for this material, but that's because the purchase group that we mentioned was only pertaining to the plant in Esbjerg, for example, which was plant 1000. And then plant 2000 would need another purchase group. So I think I selected this the first time. I will select, say, 001 this time around and press enter. And now it's asking me to save it. So yes, I want to save. And now I have that material. It says material created. Yeah, but actually it was not a new creation. It was more an extension of the already created material. And I can go back now to my list. Here it was 1000. I go back. I execute again. By the way, this button is used to executing. I will explain this report to you, especially for UOB that has not, you have not seen some of these screens before. Why? Let me go back. MM60. Why don't I see it in the other plant? Let's see. Yeah, it's maintained in the 2 plant. Yeah, sometimes the system does this, but MM60. Let's see. Let's see in 2000. Or was my material number wrong? Let me see. Let's go to MM02. Yeah, it's this material. It's in the 2 plants. Yeah. Let's go here. In 2000. Oh, something is not right with this. No, sorry. There we go. So I'll go back. It's because I only selected evaluated material. So if I remove that, Now you can see the material in the two plants, okay? But again, because we have not maintained some of the accounting data, you can see that it's blank here, okay? Let's go and do that just so you can see how it's done. To change a material, we use transaction code MM02, and I think that might be the next exercise. Yeah, MM02. Yeah, okay. Let's see. We go now to MM02 and put your material number, press enter. It brings up the views. And in this case, we want to, I think it was accounting one and purchasing. Enter. And I want to maintain it for plant 2000. I proceed. I want to, what was the question? The question here says that we should change the purchase group from 01 to 02. Well, we have 01 here and we change this to 02. Okay, so we're changing to this guy here. Press enter. Not yet. I want to also change. I didn't select. Let's see, views, accounting one. Let's only do that. Enter. Go. I want to put. Oh no, sorry. I need to change the plant. On select that. I want to work with plant 2000 now. Press enter. There seems to be some issues. Why is it saying that? Let's go back to 1000. Yeah. Accounting data one. Yeah, I will see why it's giving that bug. But yeah, what I wanted to do was to update the pricing information. But I'll check why the system is giving me that bug and come back to that later. Okay. But for now, we have changed it. We have done this exercise by moving the planner group from 1 to 2. Okay. Any questions, guys and lady? So you now know how to extend and how to change some information. Next, we will display is just to see the material. So if I, and it's MM03, you only just have one field where you can put in the material number, press enter, and it depends on which view you want to see. Let's say we want to see basic data 1, 2, and purchasing. You can press that, and then it asks you for which plant. Let's say we want to see for plant 2000. Press that, and you can see in the display screen, all of the fields are grayed out. So there is you cannot change anything here. You can only just see. So you can see stuff in basic data 1, 2, purchasing, and any other view you want to see. But this is only just for display. Now, you may want to ask why does this view exist? There are times when maybe two users are working with SAP at the same time, and one user wants to change something, right? And the other user also wants to change something at the same time. SAP will not allow you because it will say that is already in process. So let's say, for example, this will be just me, for example, MM02. I view this, and let's say for plant 1000, I go in, and now I'm in the change mode. If by the way, to create a new session in SAP, you need this button here, and that will just make you a different screen, essentially, right? So we have a new screen here. We type MM02, for example. Obina, did I lose you? Looks like Obina it looks like you're logged in with different accounts. Anyway, so now I have this in change view, and I want to also go into the same material in change view, right? If I press enter, it's giving me an error that is locked by somebody else, okay? By me, of course. But in the real world, this could be maybe Victor working and he's trying to do something with the same material, but he will be locked out because two people cannot be in edit mode of a master data at the same time. So in that case, but anyway, Joe wants to see this material anyway, so he can use the display transaction instead, MM03. Okay. And the system will let him display the material. Okay. So you need the display sometimes when you probably don't want to change anything, or if the data is locked by another user, then display can help multiple users to be viewing the same master data at the same time. Anyway, any questions here? No questions? Very good. Now let's move to the next one, which is mass maintenance. Okay. And this one is pretty interesting. It's a transaction code MM17. And if you go in the tree view, Material Master, go to Material Master, Material, you'll see mass maintenance. So this is used to make mass changes, because there may be times where you're working with a lot of materials and you want to make a change to a number of, let's say, for example, the material group of 10,000 materials, for example, right? You don't want to go into each material one by one and changing the material group. You can actually do it with this MM17 code. Now, when you go in, the first thing you see is this screen, which pretty much gives you all of these different tables. Okay, these are the technical names of the tables and the description of the tables. And you can see that that's kind of linked to some of the, for example, the general data of the material, the description, and so on, the storage location, the unit of measurement, and so on. Okay. But this table Mara is the one that is linked to things like material. And you can also see, if you select that table and click on fields, you can also see some fields that you're allowed to change. And I was talking about changing the material group, for example. Okay. I think that's the exercise. So change the material group to 1001. Okay. So, um, so I selected the table, then I select the material group and I execute. And now it's telling me to select which materials I would like to update. Okay. Um, Let me go and select my materials back from the MM60 screen. MM60, remember, was the one we used to see the list of materials, and we wanted to see the list for this material. I removed the evaluated materials, and I have this. And let's say I want to change the material group, as said in the example, to something else. Maybe, I don't know if 1101 is in the system, but let's see. So I will copy the material number 1292, go back to my mass change. In this case is 1292, right? Execute. And then it brings me to a screen where I can actually make this change. Up here will be the new value. So whatever I want to change, the material group to will be up here. And this is how the old value was looking. So at the moment, the old value is 00102 material group. And I can change it to something else up here. And to do that, I can click the match code button and see all the different types of material groups. We already selected the steel sheets, but say, for example, I want to change it to steels, right? I can then select steels. So new value will be 00101. Old value was 00102. And if you want to see the old value, you can also click here, right? And then I can carry out the mass change with this button right here. Click on that. And you can see here that it has now changed to 00101. And I can see the old value that, yes, indeed, it was 00102, and now it's going to be 00101. I like this, and I will go ahead and save it. Oh, yeah, okay. So it's because my material is open. I had an error, a red error. So by the way, when you get red errors, it means that you didn't, you cannot proceed. That means you have to fix something, but that's because my material is in change mode. And remember, I told you that if the material is in change mode, you cannot do any other process. You or even others cannot do any other editing process on that material because the material is locked. Okay, so I'll just close it, make sure it's closed, and go back and try to do that again. I'll go back, just remove this warning and try to save it again. And this time around, I have a green icon, a green light, meaning that it was successful. Then I will go back to my material list. Remember, I changed it to 00101. I'll go back one step and I'll come back to the material list. And now you can see that my material group is now 00101. And this is only for 2 materials. So you can imagine if you had a big list of materials, you can change some of these quite easily. If I go back, say I remove that and I wanted to see all the materials in plant 1000, okay, I will use this, filter screen, put plant 1000, go, and might take a couple seconds. Yeah, so you can see I have a whole lot of materials here. I will not change all of them. Let's say I want to change these materials right here. I will copy these material numbers up to here. Control C. Go to my mass change screen, MM17. Select Mara, which is the table that I want to maintain the field for. I go to fields and then I can see the technical. And by the way, to see the name of the table and the field name of a field, okay, I'll make it simple. I'll go to MM03 to view that material again. By the way, one handy skill is if you just press space, you can see some of the entries you have made in that particular field. So if I do 1292, press enter. Yeah, this view is okay. In that plant, yes. So for example, if I wanted to know what the table and the field for each, the base unit of measure is, I can click on that and press on F1 and it brings me that screen that has a description, but then you have this icon here with kind of a wrench and a hammer. If you click on that, you can see the table and the field combination. Okay, so in this case it's called Mara and the field is MEINS. Okay, so material group was, if I go to material group and press F1 and click on this technical information button, you can see it's Mara and MatKL. Okay. So let's see if that's true. If I go back to my mass change, you can see material group was Mara and MatKL. Okay. And there are other things, right? You can change the base unit, the order unit, the document type. You can change whatever as long as you know which field you are talking about. Okay. So I wanted to change the material group for those materials. So here, essentially, up from here to around here, I want to change, although you can see some of them are empty. Let's see if that works. So I go here, select material group, execute, and then I will come here. Now, because I have a list of materials that I have copied, I'm just gonna, paste them on Notepad so you can see. So these I copied, okay? I will I can, start to type them into the field one by one. But imagine this is only one field. In SAP, you have the ability to do multiple selections, and that's why you need to click this button right here. And then you can write all those material numbers here. Now, typing them one by one is a pain, so you can actually just copy them, click into the first one, and with this icon here that says upload from clipboard, you can paste all the material numbers into that field, okay? And this can go even as high as 100,000 and even more. I don't know what the limit is. You can put as many as possible values into the multiple selection field, okay? And then you execute. And you can see that it shows only the first one here, but because you see this green, you can see that the arrow it has a kind of a green shadow. It's trying to tell you that there are some other values that are inside of that field, okay? And we can go ahead and execute. And then you can see now all the materials that we have selected and their material groups, okay? It's very uneven. And we want to change them to this, for example, okay? And I cannot remember what was 107. It was miscellaneous. Let's say we want to change them to steels, right? We select that, so steel, and I want all of these to be steel. I will go ahead and carry out the mass change. It's telling me now that they're all going to be steel. I like it. I can see the old values. You can see some of them were blank before. Now they're going to be 00102. I like it. I press save. SAP saves everything. I have all of them as green, which means that all of these materials now have a new material group. Let's see if that's true. I will go back in my report and remove that material number, execute again. And you should see that I think the first 7 or 8, they now all have the same material group up to here. Good? Any questions so far? So anyway, you're going to have the record and you can just repeat the exercises. Joe, you have a question? No?
No, I don't.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right.
Very interesting.
Very good. So we set the deletion. So this one is when you want to delete. So now, by the way, in SAP, you cannot permanently delete things, but you can set a deletion flag so that those things will not be available for edit. And to do that, there's a transaction code for Material Master is MM06 for deleting. So I will come back here. I'll just close that, close that, close that, and type MM06. It's asking me which material do I want to delete. The one we created was 1292, right? I'll just copy that. And you can also delete it for one plant or you can delete it for multiple plants, okay? So in this case, I want to delete it for, let's say, plant 2000 because I have extended it to plant 2000. And you can also select, based on valuation type, storage location, and some other data, right? Execute. Okay. Yes. And save it. And it tells me here that the deletion flag has changed, okay? Now, I have deleted this material for plant 2000. Let's see if that material is still available. So I'm just going to use this screen. I will, let's open a new session. Try to go to MM02 to try to change that material. Select. And then it asks me for which plant. Remember, I deleted it now for plant 2000. I select 2000, execute, and then it tells me here that the deletion flag is set for the client, meaning that this material, well, it's a yellow warning. It will still let me go in, but it's telling me that this material has been flagged for deletion. That means that you may not be able to do purchase orders and things like that for this material because there is a deletion flag on it. Okay, so that's how you flag materials for deletion with transaction code MM06. So now I have been doing a number of things. In exercise 7, it says, we should view the change logs. With MM04, I can see the log of changes for this particular material. Let's see all the things we have been doing with this material. T-code MM04, display changes. So all the changes we have done for this material, let's say in plant 1000. Let's see. Execute, and you can see several times I did things. Okay, so at this time, let's see what I did at 526. If I double click on that, you can see here that I have, so it tells you what the old value was and what the new value was. So it's telling me that, well, there was no valuation data, but I added this valuation data. There was no plant data, and I added that plant data, and so on, right? There was no unit for measure, and I have maintained each as a unit for measure, okay? And some of these are not readable, but it's just telling you all the things I did when I clicked save at that particular time, okay? I think I just did a delete on one of them. Let's see if that's coming in the logs. That was for plant 2000. Go in. Yeah, you can see, and you can also see which transaction code I was in when I did the particular action. MM06, yeah, let's see. You can see the flag material for deletion, right? Before there was no flag, and now there is a flag, okay? And it tells you the exact time that I did it. And that's one beauty of SAP is it's recording all of this. So it's very, very traceable who did what, because every single change you made in SAP for these master data and even for transactional data is saved with your name, right? With your name. So you can see exactly who has done the particular action and when he did it. So you can then probe and say, well, but why did you delete this material? And he cannot deny because his data, his personal data is saved in the system. Okay. So that's how you track changes in a material master. Any questions? All right. Okay.
There is a lot of information, but we watch recording later.
Yeah, of course. Don't worry. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So there are some other things we can do. We can change the material type. Remember, we had created our material as a raw material. And let's see if we can change the type of material. So this exercise is asking us to change it to semi-finished, right? So let's see. With the transaction code MMAM. Let's see, MMAM. So it's asking us here that for our material, what is the new material type? And the exercise has asked us to maintain semi-finished product. Yes. Execute. It's giving us a yellow warning. As I said before, yellow warnings are just warnings. They will not stop you from proceeding with the transaction, right? It's saying here you are changing material type from raw material to semi-finished product. And yes, I want to do that. I press enter and it gives me this change material type screen. Yes, no problem. I go ahead and I execute, and then the material type has now been changed. Okay. So if I go and I view the material with MM03, let's see, did I set the deletion flag for 1000? I thought I set it for 2000, if I remember well. Did I also delete for 1000? 1000. Oh, okay. I will check that later. Okay. I thought I set, yeah, I did set it for 2000. I'll check that. But yeah, hope that's clear how you can change the type of material with MMAM. And then you can also copy a material to a new number, right? That is, you know, the material number that we have allowed SAP to automatically create here. That can be changed with MMCC, right? Let's do that. Go back. Yes. MMCC. Oh, okay. Sorry. This one is an S/4HANA transaction code. It's not available in ECC. So S/4HANA is a version of SAP. And by the way, in SAP, the present version, the present type of SAP is S/4HANA. You can see, where can you see that system? I think it's um, where is it? I think it's here. Application, no, not in the help screen. You can see it, status, yeah, I think. So it says SAP ECC 6.0, okay? But in the newer versions of SAP, it's SAP S/4HANA here, okay? And looks like this transaction code is not available in ECC, but it's there in S/4HANA, and you can change the material number. Okay, good. And then this one you already saw a little bit about it, MM60. It's to show a material list. Okay. So the list of materials in SAP, okay? And you can use these selection fields. The purpose of these fields is just to narrow your selection, okay? So in this case, for example, if I wanted to see for only this material in that plant, then I can maintain those fields and execute. And I'm not seeing anything because I need to uncheck that. And I have one item. But if I want to see all the materials in plant 2000, I can do that and I have a bigger list now, okay? So this just helps us to reduce the amount of data. But if you wanted to see, for example, only raw materials, then you can go ahead and under material type, select where is raw materials? And yeah, right here, and execute. And these are only raw materials in the system. Did I select plant 2000? Yeah. So raw materials in plant 2000. If I wanted to see only raw materials in plant 1000, then I will select accordingly. And this is my raw materials in plant 1000. Okay. And if you want to also filter by material group, for example, steels, you want to see all in plant 1000, all the raw materials that are having material group of steel, there's nothing. Let me see, full ROH. Let's see, let's take a real one that is really maintained. Let's say 00107. Go back. 00107. That is what exactly? It is miscellaneous. Yeah, let's see. Okay. And now you have an even smaller list. Okay. So all of these fields, the material group, material type, the plant, and the material number are helping you to search for materials within your your plant as required. Now, this one is not used to know the inventory quantity. It's only just used to see the material details, okay, the price, the plant, the purchase organization and stuff like that, okay? All good? Yeah, so we have made it to the exercise here just told us to find for plant 1,000, all the material groups in 1,000, which we have already done right away. So that's all for today. Tomorrow we are going to be starting another type of master data called vendor, okay? Because now we have our material, we have to have a way to supply that material. And of course, if we have a supplier, then the next thing will be, okay, how then can we purchase this material? So we'll start to look at things like purchase orders, purchase requisitions, quotations, and all of that. And then after that, we will look at invoices, and then we'll look at inventory management and so on. So yeah, I think that's enough for today, and hopefully we'll continue maybe next week so I can have some time to prepare the material for the next one. All
Thank
good?
you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So no questions. I can end the session here, right?
For now, it's a whole lot, but but
Don't
when
worry.
I try to go through again and
You will get it
do it
for sure.
myself, yeah. So if any challenge, I will let you.